Hi there, Laura Donnelly here from the Healing Path, and I'm coming to you from my main business, Dancing with Ease, Body Brain Balance. And one of the main things about this and healing and balance is that we all have the ability to do a certain amount of healing for ourselves. Healing is a journey. It's an unfolding. It doesn't always look like we expect it to look, but it is an adventure. And there are hundreds of different ways of working with yourself with healing. Modalities, they call them. And I have been bringing in a few friends who work in different areas to share their journeys and the modalities that they practice and the things that they do that have brought them happiness and joy in their life. And today, my guest will be Vibha Jani. She's a really good friend of mine. We share a history in dance, although we are not currently focusing on dance in our lives. And we share lots of joyful times together. And I am so happy to bring Vibha to you, for you all to meet her. Here she is. Hi,
Hello.
Vibha.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad that you could be here and share
I'm very glad to be here.
and just share some of our fun and joy. One of the fun things is that we both had a little accent pink today without planning or working.
That's true. No coordination.
None. So, Vipa, we have what we decided to call your talk here today. Happiness is a choice. Do you want to share with people your thoughts about happiness and how it works for you?
Sure. I am a professor of architecture, as you know, and this is a specialty that I don't claim to have, but I have done a lot of research on mindfulness and happiness and health and self healing, as you talked about earlier. So I would like to share some of the things that I have been researching. And we were talking about, is happiness a choice? And I believe that it's a frame of mind that we can select to be in. But scientific research shows that 50% of our happiness depends on our genes, comes from our parents and their parents and all that. 10% is circumstances, which is generally not in our control. The 50% of gene, not in our control. But the 40% of our happiness is in our control. And that's where we can do varieties of different things to be happy. And so I'm right now teaching a course for my architecture design, interior architecture, product design, industrial design, and landscape architecture students called Happy You, Healthy You. So there are many myths that exist that health is the most important thing in life. But I have talked to now many experts who are medical doctors who say that they have patients who may not be the most optimal health point in their life, but they claim to be happy. And I was like, how can that be possible? And they say because that's the frame of mind they chose to be in. So they have had cancer patients who are going to die, they know that, and still choose to be happy and live in the moment and enjoy every moment. They have varieties of other diseases, but they say they are happy. So that intrigued me a lot. And so I started doing a lot of research on what is happiness and where it comes from and what is the history of happiness. And then it took me all the way 25,000 years back to understand where happiness originated as a concept, because, of course, it's a concept, it's a feeling, but it is a much larger philosophical concept that Buddha talked about happiness through mindful work. Socrates talked about happiness as not dependent on God, but dependent on you as a human being. Imagine 2,500 years ago, somebody talking about not God, but you as a human being responsible for your own happiness. I mean, that was revolutionary. And then Aristotle connected that to mind and body, meaning that both need to be in consonance with each other for happiness. Then Menicus, from Chinese side of it, came back and said, yes, all that is important, and so is virtuous life. And that virtuous life, if you live morally and ethically, can bring you happiness, and you can become godlike. Not God, but divineness that we talk about. You can achieve that divine kind of happiness. Then, from the Islamic side, Ghazali talked about how music and dance can bring happiness, because Sufism, of the Islamic side of Sufism, is about really dancing to achieve that kind of happiness in Qawwali, which is a music form. So singing can bring happiness. And I was like, that's me, that's me. I love those two things very much. And more than anything else, I love to laugh. And I have received my father's happiness gene. I know this. He's the most happy man I've ever met. And I know that he makes happiness as his choice. And so this research is showing me varieties of different things we can do. Now, what we call today, 2,500 years later, we call it positive psychology or happiness study. And all that it says are all the lessons that we should have learned from Buddha and Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and Menicus and Ghazali, and all the way today to all our positive psychologists. And it seems very simple, very difficult to practice, but the formulas that they have given seems very simple, right? Be kind. Your kindness bring happiness to you. Live ethical life. It brings happiness to you. Serve others. It brings happiness to you. But in all that, everybody has talked about, in Socrates' sentence, this is a very famous quote, that unexamined life is not worth living. Meaning, you need to reflect on who you are, what you want in life, and how you are going to live that life so that you can attain that happiness. And so there are varieties of ways to do it. You can live in the moment and be happy rather than worrying about the whole life in general, which is mindfulness and Buddhist concept. You can dance and sing from Sufi side of Islam and can attain happiness. You can give back to the society, which is the highest form of happiness, which is the sustained happiness, they call it. So there are three aspects in positive psychology now that they have talked about, and that is pleasure, engagement, and meaningful life. So pleasure that you and me both like it very much is, for example, eating a chocolate and feeling that sensation of that melting in your mouth and becoming just wonderful experience. But that's in the moment. It's a sensation, it's a pleasure, but that pleasure can bring joy, but not lasting happiness. Then there is engagement, which you and I do a lot. We walk together, we communicate our ideas, we collaborate together, we work together. Um, and that kind of engagement, which is based in developing wonderful relationships, brings happiness as well, which both of you and I have experienced. But again, there could be some ups and downs. Versus meaningful life is this larger engagement with the society and giving it back and helping others and being kind because of the kindness sake and no other reason. Helping each other, taking care of each other. Those are things that can bring you sustained happiness. Now, that is a choice. So we can't do anything about our genes. They are given to us, it's in our DNA. But there's 40% of the time we can really mitigate the 50%, in fact, 60%, because 10% of circumstances are not in our control either.
Not at all.
Not at all. But how you react to that circumstance is your choice. And that you can make as a happiness choice. So that's what the positive psychologists say now. That is what 2,500 years ago Buddha had said. So all those combined, I have come to realize that I can make that choice. Now, again, because there are certain circumstances that we can't mitigate. And then there are some imbalances that some of us have, which cause depression, which cause anxiety. Those are not in our control. But if we practice certain things, for example, mindfulness, living in the moment, let the thoughts come and float through us without judging the thoughts as good, bad, or ugly. Accept that we have these thoughts and then let it go and let it float through us. And being in that moment can bring us happiness. When we get stressed, and that takes away our happiness because we are now stressed and have anxiety and all that, we can do breathing exercises to reduce that anxiety and stress. And then to be happy, we can do all these varieties of activities I just talked about. So we can really think about just moment's pleasure, which is, of course, all of us indulge in all the time. We can engage, which some of us do in a good way and in sustained way. And then if we can give back and really become a meaningful life where not only we are receiving, but we are giving back, all of these can really bring us happiness. And that is by choice. That's why happiness is a choice. Now, I'm not going to say that this is 100% true because, as I said, there are medical conditions of depression and varieties of these things that cannot be mitigated just because you want to be happy and you want to make that choice. Those are mental health issues that you should really see a medical professional for. And mindfulness and yoga and practicing meditation and breathing will help after those medical professionals have prescribed some of these things as medication as well as therapy. So I don't want to diminish the fact that these are major health issues that we are not discussing that.
Well, or that some people have maybe a more serious gene. They might laugh and they might be happy.
Yes.
At various times, but their focus and outlook is maybe one of more caution, more more looking at what might go wrong so that they can prepare for that, which is none of that's a bad thing.
No. And in fact, there is a concept of flow. So you talked about somebody being serious and not fun to be with, for example. But these people could be very happy because they are in their flow. They are concentrating on something that they love so much that they forget time and place and anything else. They are in their zone and they are happy because they are doing their life's work. And that concept in positive psychology is called flow. So there are different kinds of ways you can attain happiness.
Well, and I think there are different qualities of happiness.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, there's kind of this big, I don't know, like if you, well, when I was a kid, I wanted a horse, and
That's
for years,
desire.
and and finally one year, every time anybody said anything, I said, I don't want any presents, just give me some money and I'll put it towards buying a horse. And then I checked out every book from the library on horses, and I left them in strategic places around my house. And I was working it hard.
I can tell.
And so I was overjoyed, That's one kind of happiness. But then there's the kind of happiness then when we go for a walk and see a bird, or see someplace we walk by every day, but then it looked different because the light was different. Yes. And I remember us just taking pictures.
I remember that too. And using the app to figure out which plant or bird or leaf it is or flower.
Right. And these things, bring not that kind of giddy happiness, but more like a quiet shared joy with somebody else. And even now, we've had the kind of COVID things, and we haven't been able to see each other in person for a long time. But we're sending pictures. This is the bird on my balcony. This is the plant in my garden. It's just whatever brings us joy, we share.
Right.
And do you have any things that you do on a regular basis for yourself that return you to happiness? Because everybody has everything in life. You have friends who get sick. You have stresses and problems at your job. You might have students that you care about who are doing really well who suddenly drop out of school. Just things, like you said, that you have no control over.
Right.
That you meet, and then how they might make you sad for 2 or 3 days or a week or something.
Right.
But then as you come back to yourself, are there things you do to restore yourself, to restore your basic happiness?
Balance. Yes, I do. You know that I'm a huge, big nature person, and I live on the lake. So that's my constant go-to. And every single time, even if right now, actually looking at trees while talking to you, as you know. So nature is a constant joy for me, the engagement with nature in any form. So most days, I'm just sitting here teaching online, looking at the trees and birds coming to the bird feeder or bird bath. And I'm constantly in nature. I'm around nature. I am surrounded by nature. And that really gives me wonderful sense of belonging to the larger universe. And that is a constant source of joy for me. I love to walk, as you know, in nature too, and look at the birds and flowers and butterflies and photographing it and looking it in detail and really seeing this living being which we don't really realize, but these are all living beings, just like you and me. And in fact, they contribute to our livelihood and sustenance. So that is another thing. Music is a huge source of joy for me, as you know. I love to sing and listen to good music. Dancing used to be, knees right now are not supporting that. So yesterday, I walked with two of my very dear friends for 2 hours on the trail that you and I have walked on, near the old Ray's Apple Market. And by the time I came back, I didn't realize it was 2 hours of walking. And the whole day, let's say, I was not walking comfortably in my own house. But regardless, that engagement with friends and with nature brings a lot of joy. I love to cook for people, and that brings me a lot of joy. Taking care of people gives me a lot of joy. Talking to my parents about everything in life, but especially about literature and philosophy and culture and art, brings me a lot of joy. Painting and writing, especially, and designing buildings and varieties of different things bring me a lot of joy. Teaching and research really brings a lot of joy. I completely forget when I'm researching, when I'm singing, when I'm in nature. I completely forget the time of the day or how much time I have. As I said, 2 hours of walking. I completely did not pay any attention to my knees. And so these are things that are by choice I do that bring me joy and happiness.
It's good. And I think that it's good for people to explore, explore
Yes.
things that might bring them joy and happiness.
Yes.
What brings you and me joy might not bring them the same thing.
Correct.
And I noticed in many of the things that you were talking about, creating something brings you happiness.
Yes.
And sometimes what I notice is just that is like you make a display of your orchids or something else with shells and all,
Yes.
and you make something very pretty out of something just natural
Yes.
around your house all the time.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Something that lately has been making me pretty happy is I'm doing something called micro decluttering.
I know where you're going with this one.
I just pick a tiny little place, maybe one drawer, maybe half a drawer, maybe one side of a dresser, and I neaten that all up.
I love
And
that.
then when it's not a huge project, I don't have to feel overwhelmed
Right?
because I have made a decision that I'm not doing even a whole room or a whole dresser of decluttering. I'm just doing micro decluttering.
A little bit. I love it. I love that concept.
Well, and see, it makes me happy because I
Yeah.
can do the small thing, right? Maybe 10 minutes
It's
here and there.
achievement. Yeah.
And if I
Yeah.
stack them up side by side, before long, I have the whole dresser decluttered without trying. So
Exactly.
this was a kind of a new thing I have discovered during the COVID shutdowns because I'm stuck in my house looking at everything. I'm so um, what else do I sometimes journal
I do
just
too.
because sometimes we get I think we get well, it's journaling is like decluttering your mind for me.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
brain can get
And it's very therapeutic.
your brain can get full of ideas that aren't yours. It can get full
Right.
of thoughts and worries about people you care about and about other things you can't do anything about. And so then if I journal, I'm kind of able, and this is the part you said, you said something about happiness that it was easy. It was not easy. It's a choice. It's a choice, but it's not always
Sure.
an easy choice.
Yeah.
And sometimes things are going on around you, and people are upset about it that you're close to and stuff. And you can want to make a choice not to be upset.
Yeah.
And you can do that, but that's sometimes harder than just sliding along with your friends who are running around like Chicken Little, maybe,
Yeah.
or who are angry about something. And one of the things I really do a lot, which helped me be a lot happier and overall in my life, is okay, this thing is here. Can I change it? Can I improve it?
Mm-hmm.
Did I cause it?
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't cause it and I can't change it, am I going to let it make me unhappy?
Right. So this you're talking about is a concept of self-evaluation and reflection, and then really going at the root cause of unhappiness, which then you can work on to eliminate from your life. Right? So it's self-discovery of what you like, why you like it, what you don't like, why you don't like it. What are you facing right now as a situation? How you are reacting to it, why you are reacting to it that way. Can I react in different way? So it was beautiful today, and it gave me a lot of joy and satisfaction that one of the students was telling me that she is practicing mindfully the breathing technique that we were um, they are all practicing right now as different. So I have asked them to do the self action plan for happiness. And so, first, they are going to go through varieties of different exercises that can bring happiness. And then they are going to develop their own self action plan for happiness. So, self happiness plan or self happiness ritual. And she said that she works in retail, and sometimes people really are mean. It used to stress her out a lot. But now she takes 2 or 3 minutes of breathing time and does the breathing exercise, and it changes her attitude and she does not react. And she said her days are getting much better. Now that is her choice. She made that choice to be happy. And and again, we are all human beings. So first and foremost, we are all going to make mistakes. We are not going to be all the time happy. There are going to be times, for example, if my mother gets sick, I'm going to be worried. It's natural tendency of our mind. And another concept that I talk about a lot is our monkey brain, right? It's a metaphor that our brain just jumps one over to the other thoughts as a monkey jumps from one to the other branch of a tree. But if we know that our thoughts are not going to stay there forever, that's a good thing, right? Because then we can let them go and bring back the equipose or equanimity, as Buddhists would call it, from mindfulness side of research. That is our goal, right? To come to that equipose of balance, rhythm, and harmony. Again, not easy, but we can all practice that, and then it becomes our learned habit.
And I think
And
what you said
happiness,
is important, that the monkey jumps from branch to branch. We can choose which ideas we want to spend our time with.
yeah,
And when we find ourselves going down an old path that is a frustrating path, an anxiety path, an angry path, we can celebrate. We can say,
absolutely.
I realize this, I'm changing direction now. And that is a big change in itself. And so instead of
Absolutely.
beating yourself up for going in your old habit way, which you probably learned from friends and family growing up. This is a lot of things are learned this way.
Right, right.
And so then to make a different choice is a conscious decision. And this conscious
Yeah.
decision, like you said, can lead over time to like a more reflexive, happier choice.
Right. So you talked about this aspect that is really important to mention. There is one which is learned habits. We all have learned things that then becomes a habit. And then habits of mind. We can develop habits of mind to change that frame of mind that I talked about earlier.
And I
That
think that, go ahead. I think that's the
that
power.
is the most important. Yes, that's power, right? Because that's power in your hands. You can change that. If you learn to be certain way, you can change to be the other way too.
Exactly. Well, I think that these are some good ideas for people to explore. Um, I will, if you send me some of the references that you have, any good books on happiness, I can include them in the description of the video for people. And if people, if the people have questions they want to ask you, they can post them on the video. I'll have this on YouTube and I'll give you a copy too. And then we can continue the discussion so that people can dive into what makes them happy. And each person can develop their own happiness routine that they can
Right, right.
return to.
Yes.
And
So, like, first and foremost, just smiling when you wake up starts your day on a happiness journey. And it has now scientifically proven that smile is really contagious. So if I smile, generally, you would smile too. That's why we love babies laugh and smile so much because it makes us happy. It's contagious. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that you can really concentrate on things that you love the most and start your day that way. You're already setting up a good path for yourself. Then, throughout the day, if you can be mindful and check your trigger points, which makes you angry, what makes you unhappy, what makes you stressed. So, then time management can help you with some of that. So, sometimes we get stressed because we just run out of time. So, if you can plan your day and can work out some of these things, these are learned habits, you can actually be much more happier. Because now you know that you will not be stressed. You don't have to be anxious about running around here and there. And so these are some of the very simple things. It's not like you have to sit for meditation for an hour. But in the morning, if you wake up and just peacefully look at nature, so biophilia is a huge theory. It's basically that most people, and I said most people because some people are fearful of nature, but most people feel happier in nature. In fact, now they have done studies after studies that people recover faster after surgeries and heal faster after they have been sick if they are exposed to nature. Even just photograph of nature in the exam rooms and in surgery recovery centers, patient might heal much faster. So these are some very simple things that you could do to start a happier day.
it's one of the things I like to do too when I wake up is to think about something I'm grateful for.
Exactly. And
And
that
even
is also
that's just sorry.
scientifically proven. Yeah, that gratitude actually brings a lot more happiness for people. Just three things a day, if you can remember and write down what you are grateful for a few weeks, or even just 21 days. There are studies have shown that just 21 days, if you can record your gratitude of 3 things that you are grateful for, it has increased people's happiness. Because it shows, right, that you are a relationship with somebody that you can grateful for, or things even. So I know that some people in summer feel thankful for air conditioning, which, coming from India, I can completely understand. But then there are larger things, right? Like I'm very thankful and grateful for our friendship.
Right.
And so, yes, these are actually studies now that has shown gratefulness, kindness, serving others. All our grandmothers said to do is actually scientifically proven to be correct.
That's so great. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and information about happiness and your beautiful smiles and joyful laughs. And we will be in touch, and I will have all the information for people about happiness that you want to share so they can continue their journey.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.